What if I told you that 10 years from right now, you could be completely done? Now, I don't mean retired in the way that our grandparents are retired, sitting on a rocking chair on their front porch, just waiting for the week to end, but done in the way that matters the most. Done trading your time and your hours for income. Done building somebody else's financial future while yours just waits on the sideline. And done trading your hours for income that you don't even control. Here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. This video is not about getting lucky. This video is not about crypto or some sort of side hustle that somebody's trying to sell you in your DMs. This video is about understanding how wealth actually compounds and setting up your life so the math actually starts to work in your favor instead of against you. So there's 3 things that I'm gonna give you in this video. First, I'm gonna cover the real reason high income earners never reach financial independence, even though the income is there. Second, we're gonna cover the only clock that actually matters when it comes to compounding growth and how you can use that to measure your progress. And third, we're gonna cover the exact 3-layer framework your money needs to be in order for this to actually work over the next 10 years instead of the next 40. If you've ever looked at your income and thought to yourself, gosh, I should be way further ahead than I am right now, this video is built for you. Stay until the end because the framework that I'm gonna cover and walk you through is the foundation that I use with all of my private clients. So let's dive in. First, I wanna talk about why high income earners stay stuck. I've realized that financial independence is not about an income problem typically. It's normally about a lack of design and structure problem when it comes to how your finances are structured and how you're managing your money every single month. What I see in the 13 years of being a financial planner is that as more money comes in, we find more reasons to spend it. More expensive apartment, more expensive subscriptions, more expensive car, more expensive trips. We call that lifestyle creep. The more money we make, the more our lifestyle expands. That is one of the most common reasons that people are never getting ahead. And also that's why it almost makes the early years of building wealth feel very punishing because it's very hard to stay consistent and stay disciplined. And at the same time, you realize that there's not a ton of progress we're actually seeing. We don't feel like the needle's really being moved much in these early years. The reason why this can be so hard is because in the early years of building wealth, you are the engine. You are the one that has to do the heavy lifting. And of course, that's difficult for most people. And this is exactly where a lot of people give up. They feel like either the system is not working, it's broken, or it's not gonna work for them. But what most people don't realize is what you're doing now in these early years is you're building the foundation that everything else can accelerate from. The building blocks of the rest of your financial life. This is where you form better habits, better ways of managing your money, better ways of investing your money. You can't make progress if there's no foundation. So it's really important to acknowledge and understand the fact that there's not a ton of momentum happening outside of the effort that you're putting in these early years. But that's exactly what we need to break through so that your money eventually starts to do the heavy lifting for you. I find that the people who break out of this cycle and who really push through aren't smarter, they're not luckier. They just understand one thing differently. The early phase isn't where nothing is happening, it's where everything is being built. The foundation always comes first, the acceleration comes later. And this is the exact conversation I have with every client that comes into my wealth execution program is a problem. And it's a compounding problem. If there's no layers, no floor, no growth engine, what are we working towards? It's really just income and lifestyle expanding together, right? If that sounds familiar, there is a link in the description to apply for our wealth execution program. If you're not quite there just yet, then of course continue to listen because this is exactly where you need to be. So let's talk about the rule of 72. Most people have no way of actually measuring their progress or figuring out where they're at in relation to building wealth that they're looking to build, right? So that process can feel random and hopeful, but the rule of 72 fixes that. It turns compounding into a clock that you can actually track. The way that it works is you simply take 72 and divide it by your average annual return that you're seeing in your account. That equals how many years it will actually take for you to double your money. So for example, if we have an average of a 10% annual return and we divide that by 72, that means our money is going to double every 7.2 years. And that number is realistic because the average long-term historical performance in the stock market is about 10%, which means if we're invested properly, we should be seeing that money double every about 7.2 years. So let's walk through an example using some math here. Let's just say we start with $50,000 in your account. Cycle one's gonna take about 7 years to double and turn that $50,000 into $100,000. Cycle 2, another 7 years or so, is gonna turn that $100,000 into $200,000. Cycle 3 turns $200,000 into $400,000. Cycle 4 turns $400,000 into $800,000, and cycle 5 turns $800,000 into $1.6 million. You get the gist here. What's important to understand and really acknowledge or recognize, though, is that it is the same effort every cycle. The system eventually does the work, not you. And also, this is something that I want you to really take away from this video today. Lost time compounds against you just as powerfully as money compounds. So the more time that you lose, the harder it is to get back ahead. Missing just one of these cycles, whether it's starting later, you're lazy, just putting it off, pausing contributions, actually letting your lifestyle expand quicker than your income, this can set you back a decade, literally, when we're talking about compounding growth. How many full doubling cycles can you realistically fit into the next 10 years? That number, however small, is your starting point. The goal here is to protect every cycle moving forward as you can. Now, let's talk about the offense and defense. Let's start by talking about the offense, growing what flows in. We're talking about promotions, skill development, investing in yourself, business income, rental income, new revenue streams. The math is not subtle, so let's walk through a real example here. Saving 15% of $5,000 a month is $750 into your growth engine or investment accounts. Saving 15% of $12,000 a month is $1,800 a month. So the same percentage, but a completely different result over 10 years. And so the takeaway here is right now, one of your main goals is to focus on how you can bring more income into your life. And of course, we can't just rely on promotions. We need to be actively looking at how to acquire assets that are producing more income into our lives so that we can also start to fuel our plan at a more aggressive rate as quickly as possible. Which takes me to the defensive side, locking the lifestyle. And this is probably the hardest part for most people, because when our raises come and our income goes up, we as human beings naturally look at that as a time to increase our lifestyle. Who doesn't? I'm a financial planner of 13 years. I'm guilty of this sometimes, but I've realized that it is literally the number one thing getting in our own way of reaching the financial independence that we want. So it's really important to understand having a balance between immediate gratification and that financial independence that we're all so desperately wanting to get to. So this is the rule. When your income goes up, your lifestyle stays flat for a year. Every dollar above your current cost of living goes to work for you in your growth engine, in your investment buckets. Every dollar. Think about it like a hiring mechanism. Every dollar above your current cost of living, you hire and put to work for you, and they all have a specific job. Every dollar is going to a specific bucket for a specific purpose, for a specific desired outcome of growing and outpacing inflation so that money is working for you and growing for you. The people building real wealth over the next 10 years aren't earning drastically more than everybody else. They've just finally started to make sure that they put every dollar to work above their cost of living. In many ways, it's literally as simple as that. Being very intentional with what you're doing with your money every single month. And that's one of the things that we build in our wealth execution program. I call it income architecture. Understanding exactly how much each bucket needs to have before you start to leverage or deploy that capital into the next bucket, and what we need to do in times of need, when we need liquidity or there's emergencies. There's a system in place for all of it. Now let's talk about the 3-layer money structure. Once our offense and defense are working, you need somewhere for that capital to actually go to build something that will last. 3 layers, each has a very specific job. Don't collapse them all into one. Layer number 1, we have the growth engine. The growth layer is not optional. It's literally the engine. So think broad market index funds, brokerage account that is meant for long-term appreciation, well-diversified growth investment portfolios. The job here is to outpace inflation and to compound that capital aggressively over time. Without this, your money is literally losing purchasing power every single day because inflation or the cost of living is averaging 3 to 4%, and it's been crazy lately. So we need more than ever to make sure that that money is actually going to work for you. Layer number 2, income, or the fuel system. Think dividend stocks, rental properties, REITs. This is where we put effort into funneling your current income into other cash flowing producing assets. This is so important when it comes to building wealth and getting on a path to financial independence. Without income assets, You're subject to selling off funds from your growth engine when the market's down. So imagine locking in a loss because the market's down 15% at the same time you need $20,000 for some sort of financial emergency. So you have no choice but to sell $20,000 from the stock market when it's down 15%. Literally the worst thing you could do for your growth engine. But that's what most people have to do in those situations because they haven't focused on growing their fuel system or their income layer yet. And then layer number 3, the stability or the foundational layer. This is high yield savings accounts, treasuries, bonds. It's still growing, hopefully about 3 to 4% in a high yield savings account or something like that. And it is there to protect during those volatile times. And it's not about an if, it's about when you're gonna go through that time frame where you're gonna need to access this bucket. And that foundation or stability layer is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle here. Now, the reality is we need all 3 layers for this to really work, because if you remove even just one of those layers, the whole system becomes very, very fragile. All 3 working together is a portfolio and a system that is actually gonna get you on a path to financial freedom. Now listen, 10 years sounds aggressive, but I want you to know it's not a fantasy. 10 years is literally just a math problem. And math problems have solutions and they have answers. So there's 3 main things that I want you to walk away with today. Number 1, start the clock now. Don't miss cycles that you have not captured yet. Number 2, play offense when it comes to your income. Lock the lifestyle when it comes to the defensive part of your plan. And then number 3, make sure you're structuring capital across all 3 layers that we talked about. The people that I see do this all the time are not some sort of an outlier. They're not unusually talented or unusually lucky. They just stopped leaving that outcome to chance and finally started to execute a structure that literally actually works. Now listen guys, I just started my YouTube channel a couple of months ago, so please subscribe for more videos like this. I am really excited to continue to provide as much educational content as possible. And if you are sitting there, higher income earner, and you're ready to stop figuring this out alone, truly consider applying to my wealth execution program or reach out if you have any questions. I wanna help you design this architecture and your plan for you specifically that is personalized so that you can really make sure that you're avoiding expensive mistakes and getting on a real path to financial freedom. Now, the next video up you don't wanna miss, I'm gonna break down the 30% debt rule, which is how higher income earners use good debt to strategically accelerate the wealth that you're trying to build. Not just avoid debt, but learn how to leverage good debt the right way to become wealthy.